Are you tired of chasing motivation that fades by the end of the day? In this video, we're going to dismantle everything you thought you knew about success, discipline, and what it really takes to win. This is not about hype. It's about strategy, clarity, and building a mind that operates on precision, not emotion. If you're serious about unlocking your full potential and building a life of calculated power, you're in the right place. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video that pushes you to the next level. Let's get to work. People often overestimate the power of motivation and underestimate the brutal clarity of discipline. They wait for a spark, a YouTube video, a powerful quote, an emotional speech, something to jolt them into action. But motivation is like a matchstick. It burns bright for a moment, then dies, leaving you in darkness if you don't have a plan. Success isn't built on moments of inspiration. It's forged in the mundane, in the methodical repetition of action even when nothing in you feels like moving. Champions don't rise because they're constantly inspired. They rise because they've built systems that don't care how they feel. Jocko Willink, former Navy SEAL, says it plainly. Discipline equals freedom. It's not flashy, it's not glamorous. It doesn't make for a good movie montage, but it works. The high performers, in business, sports, art, they don't wait to feel ready. They act because they've trained themselves to move regardless of their emotional state. The emotional high that people chase is a cheap illusion. Real power comes from removing emotion from the equation entirely when it comes to execution. That's what separates amateurs from professionals. You can't negotiate with your feelings if you want to win. Emotions are volatile, and if your actions are tied to your emotional state, then so is your progress. The question isn't, do I feel like doing this? It's, what needs to be done? That shift in framing is where growth begins, not in the comfort of positive vibes, but in the discomfort of commitment. The people who dominate their fields do so not because they're perpetually motivated, but because they have trained their identity to act on logic, not on mood. Success isn't accidental. It's engineered. It's calculated. It's the result of someone deciding that reality won't bend to their feelings, so they'll bend themselves to reality. That's where the real edge is, not in chasing the next emotional high, but in cold, calm, deliberate action that moves the needle 1 inch at a time. The world doesn't care how inspired you are. It rewards execution. Let's build a framework you can actually use. Step 1. Abandon the idea that life owes you anything. Fairness is not a law of the universe. It's a comforting myth we're taught as children. Waiting for fairness is like waiting for the tide to freeze. You can either accept that life is inherently imbalanced, or keep losing to those who already have. This isn't about becoming cold. It's about becoming clear. Clarity creates power. When you stop expecting fairness, you stop being blindsided by the absence of it. That's when you become dangerous. Second, treat time like it's blood. You only get so much, and once it's gone, it doesn't regenerate. Money lost can be regained. Opportunities missed can return. But time is a one-way transaction. Every day you spend entangled in busy work, procrastination, or shallow distractions is a day you'll never get back. Successful people don't just value time, they weaponize it. They engineer their hours with ruthless intention. They understand that it's not how much you do that counts, but how effectively you allocate your energy. Time isn't money, it's more than money. Next, understand this uncomfortable truth. Most people are running on scripts they didn't write. They react rather than act. They scroll, swipe, agree, obey, all without question. And because of that, they become predictable. Predictable people are easy to control. If you want leverage in life, learn how people think. Then learn how they behave when they're not thinking at all. This isn't manipulation in the sinister sense. It's chess. When you understand patterns, you can position yourself ahead of them. Influence isn't about force. It's about anticipation. Fourth, sharpen your mind like a blade. Intelligence isn't gifted. It's developed. Read beyond your comfort zone. Study decision-making. Analyze patterns. Refine your critical thinking. In a world that rewards speed, the person who can think clearly under pressure becomes unstoppable. Your brain is the tool that forges every other tool. Invest in it relentlessly. And lastly, eliminate noise. That means cutting loose anything that doesn't serve your mission, whether it's an energy-draining habit, a toxic person, or a goal that no longer aligns with your values. Complexity is the enemy of clarity. Streamline your life like a machine built for war. Let me leave you with a tactic the powerful live by. Silence is a weapon. The most dangerous person in the room is rarely the one making noise. It's the one absorbing everything. The one who watches, remembers, and waits. While others rush to speak, to prove, to posture, the observer collects data. Strategic silence is not weakness. It's information control. Train yourself to become a listener who studies motives, tracks patterns, and stores leverage. Because when the moment comes to speak, you'll do so with precision. And that's how real power moves. Here's the truth. Mediocrity feels good, and that's why it's so dangerous. It's warm, it's familiar, it doesn't challenge your identity or your habits. But comfort is not a reward. It's a trap. Excellence, on the other hand, is uncomfortable by design. It demands sacrifice, discipline, and an unflinching confrontation with your own limitations. Most people won't choose that path, not because they're incapable, but because they're unwilling. If you want to separate yourself from the masses, stop chasing ease and start pursuing precision, and that means seeking discomfort on purpose. Don't fall for the romanticized version of the grind that gets thrown around in motivational speeches. The pain you choose should not be theatrical. It should be tactical. You don't embrace struggle for the aesthetic of hardship. You embrace it because it's the most direct, most honest, and most effective route to growth. Discomfort forces you to adapt. It sharpens your awareness. It exposes your weaknesses and teaches you to build systems that don't rely on ideal conditions. Progress lives in the resistance, and those who learn to operate under pressure become the ones who thrive when others fold. Take a hard look at your current position. Are you where you want to be, financially, physically, emotionally, professionally? If not, then something in your approach isn't working. Success is math, not mystery. Maybe you miscalculated your starting point. Maybe your target is misaligned with the assets and skills you currently hold. Maybe your methods are outdated. Or maybe, and this is the hardest to admit, you're letting emotions sabotage execution. Your feelings might be valid, but they have no place in the architecture of your decisions. Fix the variable. Don't take it personally. Just refine your equation and advance. Regret is emotional noise. It disguises itself as reflection, but it's really paralysis in disguise. You don't need to feel bad to learn. You just need to analyze. Regret is when your ego gets involved and mistakes the outcome as an identity statement. But failure isn't about you. Success isn't about you. They're just signals. Feedback loops pointing out what did or didn't work. Don't waste energy assigning meaning to the outcome. Use that energy to refine your inputs. The moment you detach your ego from your performance, you gain a level of clarity most never reach. That's when real improvement begins. Here's the paradox that most will never grasp. To gain uncommon results, you must adopt uncommon thinking. But uncommon thinking often requires detachment, not just from the norms around you, but from the emotional attachments within you. The qualities that make you relatable, that bond you to the crowd, are often the very chains that prevent you from rising above it. This isn't about abandoning your humanity. It's about transcending it. When you let go of the need to be understood, liked, or validated, you begin to think with precision. And in that mental distance, you'll find a deeper, more strategic kind of empathy. Not the empathy of emotion, but of understanding how people truly operate beneath the surface. Most people never pause to dissect their own behavior. They mistake routine for choice, impulse for desire, conformity for wisdom. Their days are a sequence of reactions. Reactions to culture, media, expectation, fear, and past conditioning. They're pulled along by invisible scripts, too distracted to ask if those scripts even serve them. But once you step out of that current, once you become aware, everything changes. You stop being a character and start becoming the author. You begin to notice patterns. You stop participating in predictable responses and start creating deliberate outcomes. That's when you become unshakable, because you're no longer being moved, you're doing the moving. Let's clarify something. Most get wrong. Motivation is not some divine fire that shows up to save you. It's not found in a hype video or a best-selling book. Motivation, at its core, is a signal. It tells you whether your conscious goals align with your subconscious programming. When there's friction between what you say you want and what you truly believe or feel safe pursuing, that's when you feel stuck. That's when you say, I just don't feel motivated. But motivation isn't the issue. Alignment is. Your subconscious is always running the show, and if you don't reprogram it, you'll always default to self-sabotage no matter how inspired you feel for 5 minutes. So stop chasing surface-level boosts and start working at the root. Your job isn't to constantly seek motivation. It's to reconstruct your identity so that the actions you need to take become natural. Not easy, not effortless, natural. And that requires daily, intentional rewiring. Start with the language you use, the thoughts you allow, the environments you tolerate. Your subconscious is always learning. The only question is, are you the one doing the teaching, or is it being programmed by everything and everyone else? Take control, and motivation stops being a problem. It becomes a byproduct of alignment. How do you change your reality? Not with bursts of enthusiasm, not with some heroic surge of passion. You change your reality through repetition, through the unglamorous process of showing up again and again, especially when every cell in your body would rather retreat. The elite don't wait to feel ready, they move regardless. They expose themselves to discomfort until it loses its edge, until the once unbearable becomes routine, until pain becomes data, until fear becomes noise. The strongest fuel is not emotional, it's mechanical. It's the habit forged by choice, enforced by discipline, and hardened through consistency. Build habits so cold, so precise, that motivation becomes irrelevant. This is the advantage of the emotionally disciplined. While others waste time chasing feelings, they're building systems. While the world trembles at discomfort, they are calm, not because they're fearless, but because they've trained through fire. Emotional reactivity is predictable. Predictability is exploitable. But clarity is lethal. In a culture that romanticizes suffering and idolizes feelings, the one who sees reality without distortion becomes the one who commands it. Passion may light a spark, but strategy builds the engine. Fairness may soothe your ego, but detachment sets you free. So draw your path with surgical logic. Identify your starting point with brutal honesty. Strip away the narratives. Silence the noise. Use your logic as a compass and your discipline as the fuel. Emotions are visitors, not guides. Let them knock, but don't let them steer. You don't need to feel like moving. You don't need to be inspired. You only need to be accurate. And accuracy begins when you stop asking how you feel and start asking what works. The difference between stagnation and progress is often the ability to move without emotional permission. This is your edge. You move forward not because the stars aligned, not because someone gave you permission, not even because you're motivated. You move because it's time. You move because it's necessary. You move because it's efficient. The world belongs to those who operate by design, not desire. To those who understand that discipline isn't the punishment, it's the shortcut. Build your habits to serve your vision. Align your actions to your outcomes, and then let the system carry you, whether you feel like it or not. That is the only motivation that matters. That is the architecture of power.